So glad to be with you again. I'm Chris Cooper. I'm a professor of political science and public affairs at Western Carolina University. And last week we had the House Forum, and this time we're having the Senate Forum. And we're really pleased that Billy Martin is joining us, running for Senate District 46 today on the Democratic side. And sort of without further ado, I will just begin with the questions. We're shooting for about 30 minutes today. So, Mr. Martin, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're running for office?
Well, I'm Billy Martin, native of Marion, McDowell County. My opponent has been a state senator in Burke County for the last decade or so, and he was getting ready to go back to Raleigh unopposed, and I just felt the urgency to have two sides of a story being told and to serve the people, which I have done my whole adult life.
Great. And tell us a little bit about that. You've got a lot of experience in local government. What have you done in local government, and what has that taught you as you think about a run for General Assembly?
It's taught me that service to the people is the ultimate goal of public service. And I guess the latest phrase that's being used lately, people over politics. And that's what I've always done. I had a career in education. I was a guidance counselor for 30 years at McDowell High School here in Marion. And I'm a problem solver, and that's basically, and lifting people up. That's what I'm about.
No, that's fantastic. And so it sounds like the believing in two-party competition, believing in getting multiple sides heard is what drove you to run for office. But why the General Assembly? Why not, pick a congressional seat or pick a different kind of seat to run for? Anything in particular about this?
This is not only a political journey. This is a spiritual journey for me. It's like the stars lined up. My opponent's been running in Burke County, Caldwell County, and Avery County for the last, I don't know. But anyway, the courts redrew. It's a new district, District 46, consisting of Burke County, his home, McDowell County, my home, and Eastern Buncombe County. And I just felt like this was a golden opportunity. Everything happened so fast. I never dreamed I'd be running for Senate, but here I am, and offering myself to serve the people.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So, I guess, what have you learned so far? Obviously, we're still a ways away from Election Day, but ballots are already being cast in terms of mail-in balloting. What have you learned thus far on the campaign trail?
This is a tough undertaking. I've learned the beauty of people, of being of like minds, and everybody working to make our state a better place. It's exhausting. I've lost 12 pounds, but the journey is worth it, and I believe in what we're trying to do. There's a righteousness in serving the people.
That's great. That's great. Let me just say too, before we move on, my hat's off to anybody running for office, Democrat,
Yes.
Republican,
Yes.
Green, Libertarian, unaffiliated, to take your time and to throw your hat in the ring.
It's tough. It's tough on the family, but it has to be done, and it can't be. I can't express enough. It can't be just one way.
Mm-hmm.
People need to have a choice. So that's what I believe in.
Great. Well, maybe I'll kind of move through a few questions about specific issues. I think we've heard about you and your previous experience, which has been fantastic. Heard a little bit about the district and its current makeup, and your opponent and why you decided to run. But maybe for the voters who are going to be able to cast that vote, where do you stand? We'll just start with a big one, Medicaid expansion.
long overdue. They've made it a political football while people have suffered and died in the past decade since it was passed. And here we are now. They're saying that we are as close as ever to getting it done, but I'm still skeptical. It seems like they're waiting until the election is over to see which direction they're going to go. And now the hospitals are getting involved, and this is a travesty. North Carolina, the General Assembly should be ashamed of what they have done over the past, talking about 10 years, over 10 years. This has been a law of the land, and they haven't figured out that Medicaid expansion saves the rural hospitals, creates jobs, and why haven't they taken advantage of this?
That's great. So just to, if we're able to have more voices heard today, I can imagine somebody on the other end might say, hey, look, how do we know the money's going to be there from the federal government in a few years? Kind of what would be your response to somebody who would say that? Hey, Medicaid expansion sounds good, but they could pull the rug out from under us anytime.
It's like I said, it's been a law of the land for a decade. We are one of maybe 13 states that haven't done it. Other states haven't had a problem with it. This is, I think, it's just an excuse. I don't buy that.
Okay, great.
I think we losing the possibility of having $4 billion injected into the state, and I just don't get it, and it's wrong.
Great, that's a great answer. Thank you. So as you know very well, there's a broader national conversation, state conversation, even a regional conversation about what some people perceive as a tension between voting rights and voting access and voting security, sort of on the other side. And we just had a forum just last night, talking about election integrity in the state of North Carolina, and making a case that, in fact, we do have open access and we have security in North Carolina. But where do you stand on these issues? And are there any issues related to elections, voting rights, voter security that you would want to see passed if you were in the General Assembly?
I think everyone has a right to vote. I don't think roadblocks should be instituted to give one side the advantage over another. I'll mention gerrymandering, and it's something that was done by both sides down through the years, and it is not acceptable. It is wrong. Let's just call it what it is and get away from gerrymandering. And politicians need to be able to stand on their own principles rather than trying to, twist the system in their favor. Just be yourself and do your job, delivering services to the people. That's what your job is. And you don't have to cheat to get that done.
Mm-hmm. Great. So related issues. Where do you stand on voter ID in North Carolina?
I'm not for voter ID. That's just another stumbling block that's been put up down through the, we haven't gotten away from that sort of thing. It's voter ID is the same as poll tax to me. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. No.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Any other issues around voting rights or voting access that you want to highlight for the folks who might be?
I think the Voting Rights Act should be passed on a national basis, and let's move forward.
Mm-hmm.
and do things in a proper manner, and just stop the division that these sort of ideas or ideals are creating, and that's all it's doing is creating divisions.
Great, thank you. So, of course, we need to ask an abortion question, a question about the Dobbs decision, which, of course, returned a lot of power over abortion rights to the states. And so, if you were elected to the General Assembly, what could voters expect from you in terms of the kinds of policies you'd advocate for, the kinds of policies that you would vote for in terms of abortion rights and abortion access?
Well, I'd be more inclined to do like they did in Kansas. You know, my opponent might be believe in the sanctity of life. I believe in the sanctity of life. But I believe in pro-choice. I think a woman should have a right. I don't think politicians should be telling a woman what to do with her body. It's just not the way I feel things should be. Because listen, when we meet our higher power, our maker, he's not going to ask you what Billy did. He's going to ask you what you did. So we can't legislate those kind of things in people's lives.
Great. Is there a lot of the debate right now is over a host of issues around abortion rights?
Yes.
One is about the number of weeks, right? And so some, of course, Lindsey Graham introduced a bill that probably won't go anywhere, but says, hey, after 15 weeks, national ban. State of North Carolina, there's been a lot of discussion about perhaps 20 weeks should be the marker. Is there a specific week line in the sand that you have for when you think that it's okay to restrict a woman's right to choose an abortion?
Believe it or not, I tend to agree with the 20 weeks, 20 weeks
Okay.
idea, more so than 15. That I could live with the 20 weeks.
Okay.
That would be my feeling on that.
Great. And so after 20 weeks, we'll move on to the topic in a second, but just so voters know kind of where you are on this, 20 weeks is a reasonable cut point. After 20 weeks, would you be for exceptions for life of the mother? Or
Yes, and those sort of things.
Great.
Rape and incest, those sort of things.
Rape and incest, life of the mother. Okay, so 20 weeks is a general rule with some exceptions.
Yes.
Carve-outs for those exceptions.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there any, as you sort of look at the General Assembly, you've been in local government, as you said, for a couple of decades now.
26 years.
26 years. That's an impressive resume. And so my guess is you have a lot of experience and thoughts about how the state government treats local governments and that relationship between state and local government, because you've been in office when Democrats have been in charge, Republicans have been in charge, it's been super majority controlled, kind of every possibility. So are there any specific changes you would want to see in the relationship between state and local government?
To be honest, Chris, I believe the state has dealt fairly with municipalities over the years that I've been involved. And like I said, it's 26 years, so I've seen a whole lot. There are minor things that I've seen over the years where some improvements could be made. But overall, I am okay with the way the state has dealt with local municipalities.
That's great. Thank you. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about education. So K through 12 education in particular in the state of North Carolina. Are there policies that you would advocate for in terms of improving our K through 12 education system in the state of North Carolina if you were elected to the General Assembly?
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned education. I had 31 years. I retired in education, me and my wife. Higher teacher pay, restoring some of the benefits teachers had when I was in education that they no longer have, reinstituting the Teaching Fellows Program to replenish our teacher pool across the state. I have a problem with state government, the amount of money that is being spent, public money that is being spent on private schools, charter schools, homeschooling. This is the public taxpayers' money. And whatever happened to the idea, if you want to send your child to a private school, that's on you. You pay for that. But too much money is being spent on private schools, charter schools, that sort of thing. And I guess I get excited about it because I am a public school person. I'm a person who was educated in public schools, and the amount of money that I have found that is being spent is just remarkable. When we see the physical structures of our schools, it's suffering, and we should and we must do better. This is our future that we're talking about. That's it's just tough to see that kind of money being spent that could be spent in the public schools.
That's great. And so you, I think, predicted perfectly the next question I was going to ask, which was really about school choice. And so it sounds like, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth at all. So can you just expand a little bit more about that? Obviously, we're hearing a lot of folks advocating, certainly from the Republican side of the aisle, but some from the Democratic side of the aisle too, advocating for more school choice. Can you play that out for us a little? Where's your perspective on that issue?
I know that different school systems across the state have rules that they use as far as where the students can go to school. The way I see it, if you want your child, you have to go by whatever the county or city school systems advocate. But if you want your child to go someplace different from in their own district, then I think you should be required to take care of that and not the state.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Thank you. So maybe we'll move on. Actually, we did K through 12. Maybe I'll get your opinions next on pre-K education. Is there anything that you think the state should be doing that they're not currently doing for early childhood, pre-kindergarten education in the state of North Carolina?
If whatever they're doing now, they need to do more. They need to do more because it's just out of the gate for a child is so important. So whatever they're doing, I would advocate we do more. And I know I'm saying do more. One thing I found, Chris, in my years in municipal government is that if you have the resolve to get something done, you can get it done. And I've also learned that no matter how much I would like to see done, you have to pay for it. You have to figure out how to pay for it. I understand that. But if you have the resolve, you can find a way to get things done. And that, in my opinion, is a place where we've fallen short. That if we see what the problem is, or We don't want to see what the problem is. But we have a job to do, and our children are the most important asset that we have. We ought to be trying to do all that we can.
Mm-hmm. Great, fantastic, thank you. How about in terms of higher education? Obviously, we talked about pre-K, we talked about K through 12. So clearly, I'm going to ask a question next about higher education in the state of North Carolina, and particularly what the General Assembly's role is and what the General Assembly's role could be in terms of higher education in North Carolina. So are there policies that you would like to see proposed, passed from the General Assembly around higher education?
The problem that I see is that our legislators are trying to control higher education the way according to their values.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of letting teachers teach what they're teaching, they're trying to control what teachers teach. And that does not serve our state well. Let me put a plug in for our community colleges.
Please, yeah.
We could do more for them. They are called upon to do more, and they do more than the monies that they are allotted. I talked to a college president. He said, if you're giving us 8% of the total state budget, if you could give us 10%, we could do a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where we are right now, stuck. We're asking all across the spectrum. We're asking for so much more than the government is able or willing to support them financially.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that we all should be concerned about.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And I can't stress that enough. And that's why we have the turnover that we have. Teachers feeling unappreciated, underpaid. That's where we are. That's where we are right now. In so many ways, I feel like it was better for me when I was in education 20 years ago than what teachers are having to put up with now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a sad commentary.
Okay, great. Well, and I think your community college point dovetails really nicely to what I was getting next, which was questions around economic development, and what, again, trying to tie to what the General Assembly in particular can do to spur economic development. What kinds of policies could voters expect to see from you if you were elected in terms of economic development?
I believe our state government is doing a good job as far as economic development. We have attracted some high-paying jobs across the state, even though and for whatever reason we've lost some big jobs too. But overall, North Carolina's in a pretty good place. But I caution to say that just like we're sitting on a $6 billion surplus, a lot of that, Chris, comes from cuts that we made on people who could afford it the least. So you can't be pounding your chest about what we did when we got so many people suffering. So it's always it's two ways to look at things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they have done this. I think in terms of people, rents are going sky high because in North Carolina we don't have rent stabilization that could curtail some of this increase. If you get evicted, the show is just about over for you as far as finding somewhere else to live, and being evicted may not be uh, any reason that you have caused. So I'm just, we can do better.
Hmm. Hmm. Great. Um, so as we got about 5 minutes left, I think, and I certainly want to give a couple of minutes at the end for you to have a, you know, sort of a closing statement, an appeal to the voters about who you are and why to vote for you. But before we get there, um, unless something radical happens in the next few months, the Democrats are unlikely to have the majority in the General Assembly. I think most folks would agree. Um, so let's say you're elected to the state Senate. The Republicans are still in control of the majority. Clearly, you need Republican votes to pass bills.
Sure.
It's the simple math. So maybe you can talk a little bit about, areas where you think you could work across the aisle, issues where you think you could find common ground with the Republicans to try to get some policy passed for folks in your district.
I can. That is one of my strengths. I can work with anybody. I'm not an enemy to anyone because of your political affiliation. All I am concerned is working to solve problems, and that's the person that I am. That's the kind of person I've always been. So I can work across. I don't even like the term across the aisle. We ought to be, we're supposed to be in this together, working for the good of the people. So no, I'm that wouldn't be a problem for me.
Great, fantastic.
I don't I don't have mean-spirited kind of people I would have a problem with, because if you mean-spirited and you trying to just hammer somebody in, I would have a problem with that, because that's not what we're supposed to be about.
That's great. Thank you. Well, we're nearing the end of our time, and we set aside about 30 minutes for this. We talked about a whole lot of issues. We talked, of course, about education. We talked about voting rights issues. We talked about abortion, economic development, education. It's been working across the aisle. It's been really, kind of a wide-ranging conversation. Obviously, we don't have time to talk about everything, but right. I think the good smattering gives listeners a good sense of who you are. So maybe just in the couple of minutes we have left, just, if this was a debate, we call this the closing statement, right? A little summation about who you are, why you're running for office, what you believe in, and frankly, why people should vote for you.
It's a song by the, I believe it's the Doobie Brothers. It's just been ringing in my ear for the last couple of weeks. And I'm talking to people primarily from Buncombe County and Burke County. And the song goes like this: you don't know me, but I'm your brother. I really am. And I'm wanting to go to Raleigh to help Governor Cooper, who has not received the credit that he has saved North Carolina in a lot of ways. He saved lives by going through the pandemic, and he's done a marvelous job. And I just want to be a person to go to Raleigh and help Governor Cooper deliver for the people, and that's what I want to do. I am your brother, and I'm with you. People over politics. That's who I am.
Great.
And I would certainly appreciate your support and your vote. And let's get this done. Let's move forward.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective today. And of course, WPVM for giving the space for conversations like this.
Yeah.
I think are so critical to democracy. Wherever folks are standing on the political aisle, in whichever district you happen to find yourself in, we need more of these kinds of conversations. So thanks to WPVM, thanks to Billy Martin, and hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right.